So with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, if you've been with us before, you know the drill. But any questions, comments throughout the whole show, make sure to get them in the chat. And we're going to be reacting to a lot here today. Obviously, mostly talking about a lot of baseball here. As there's a lot of historic moments that have been achieved over the last few days here. Having 7 NC State players drafted this weekend, which is the second most in program history. And it's the first time that we've had 4 picks in the top 150, the first time that's ever happened in program history. And I do gotta say, it's a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde moment here for me, thinking, man, you had 4 guys going the top 150. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, man, I guess, we really had it good there this past season over the last 2 years in particular here. So, but with that being said, we'll have plenty of time to get into that here. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, it really helps support the channel. It's free to do, and you're notified whenever we release any new NC State content. And also, too, as well, make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying this conversation. And also, too, as well, make sure to leave us a comment down below in terms of which player were you really surprised when as early as they did, or which player were you surprised dropped a little bit further than you expected. But Greg, give us your first initial thoughts here on this historic couple of days here or that we just had.
I enjoyed watching it. I will say that it was a different vantage point than I've had in previous years, having had the honor and privilege to be invited to Jacob Dudan's watch party, and that was a lot of fun. And I'm sure we'll maybe talk about that here in a little bit when we start breaking down some of the players. But yeah, excited to see where those guys landed. Uh, a little disappointed in a couple where they ended up being drafted in their spot, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as well. But yeah, hard to argue. Second most draft picks of all the ACC would have tied for first had someone stayed around the program this year, but we won't talk about that unless you guys want to. But overall, a good number of draftees, like you mentioned.
Yeah. So yeah, let's jump into it. Well, first of all, actually here too, do another plug here as well is that, and I'll kind of mention this after we talk about this MLB draft too as well. But our man Ethan Berry has already released some of his thoughts actually. So if you want his full thoughts, without mine and Greg's kind of washing his down, make sure to go to our Patreon. Only $5 a month. Get 3 awesome members only videos per week, plus also some rumors only,
We
some
dropped one
rumors
this
only
morning.
chat too as well. And yeah, we actually just dropped a hint in our rumors chat as well here today. So if you want to get access to that, only $5 a month. Link down in the description below. Go sign up here today. A ton of content for only $5 a month here. But Ethan, let's start off with the top here, shall we? Mr. Ty Head, going number 46 overall in the second round, Gold Glove winner to the Baltimore Orioles. Uh, what do I guess, what was your initial reaction to seeing Ty's Head name pop up? And what do you think the true fit is here for Ty Head?
Well, my initial reaction is kind of looking back to his high school days because, this was a guy who was highly regarded out of high school. And look, I'm really going to get into the weeds here for a second, but he and Devin Fitzgerald were similarly ranked in the same class. Obviously, Ty Head makes it to campus. Devin Fitzgerald does not. Devin Fitzgerald signed for 900,000 out of high school. Obviously, a very very strong number. I would guess Ty Head probably had offers in that same range. I don't know that for sure, but I think the high schoolers that go like once you get up into that 900 to a million range, I think that's kind of where you look at it. And so I'm sitting here looking, okay, how did Ty Head, if Ty Head got offered in that range, how did he do? And he made, his slot anyway. We'll see if he gets a slot. I would guess as a draft eligible sophomore, he will, maybe even a little more. He probably made about $1 million, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Obviously, like it's not an exact science.
Well, the slot
Um,
value is 2 million.
the slot value is too much, right? But I'm saying we don't know what he was
Sure.
offered,
Right.
out of high school. So if I'm
Yeah.
comparing him
Oh,
to
I,
Devin
I apologize.
Fitzgerald,
Got you. Yeah, got you.
yeah, like if we're
Sorry.
comparing him to Devin Fitzgerald, who got 900, right? If Ty had gotten that exact same number, which unlikely, but same
Yeah.
range. You're looking at a little over a million. So I think Ty Head did very, very well for himself coming into state. Now, on the flip side, Devin Fitzgerald has really blown up this year, and he's on the fast track to the big leagues, which also impacts your earnings, obviously. So it's not just Ty Head's getting more money now. Devin Fitzgerald got more money later. Devin Fitzgerald is now ahead of where Ty Head will be as a prospect. So anyway, Ty Head did very well for himself coming to NC State. And obviously, if you're NC State, that's the pitch that you want to be making to Gunnar All and to guys that turn down the draft for you. And so I think Ty Head is a great example of that, and a success story for NC State.
Yeah. And Greg, for Ty, I think there's a couple, and that's the thing about Ty is there's really a couple storylines when you think about Ty. I mean, obviously his fielding ability, which is incredible, Gold Glove winner, definitely puts the stamp on that. But even too as well, his strikeout rate, which was extremely low, which is a phenomenal thing for sure. So I mean, I think with him as a prospect, he's a guy. I think about the movie Moneyball, where it's the first time I've ever heard the talk for, but how how
It gets on
Billy
base.
Bean he was a five. Well, no, he was a
Oh, gotcha.
five-piece player. He was
Five-tool
able to
player.
hit with power, field, speed, and whatever. Well, I think with Ty Head, you're getting a couple of pieces with him, in terms of ability to hit the long ball, ability to get on base, ability to not strike out, and ability to play the outfield extremely well. So, do you see Ty Head potentially being the next player that is getting the call up to the major leagues?
No, I still think it's Jacob Dudan that gets called up first, even with his
Ooh.
injury. I just think that Dudan can have an impact really, really fast, especially if he comes in as a reliever. Now, starting pitching's a little different, but yeah, I definitely think there's a few things that Ty needs to work on, and that they will get him even more one-on-one instruction, more so than he would have gotten at NC State. But no, he's definitely going to have an impact. I would say probably, I would say within 3 years.
Okay.
Kind of the same. The thing in Ethan, I've talked about it, is like with Groover, right? His whole thing is, where do you play him in the field, and I think that's not a problem with Ty. The thing that you're looking for Ty is, can his arm get a little bit better in the outfield, right? He's an average thrower right now. Can you get him better? They're going to pitch him way different than they did in college. He's gonna see things much differently. If I'm throwing fastballs at him, I think that could be a problem. But he's going to be good. There's no doubt. And then the biggest other thing is will his power carry? Like, I don't think I project him at this point hitting 15 home runs in the majors, but that's something that they could work on.
Yeah. Well, and Ethan, to maybe Greg's point here, do you agree with his hot take that Dudan will be the first to make it to the major leagues over Ty Head?
I don't think it's a guarantee that either makes it.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of that's kind of the thing we overlook, is like, yeah, it's good and great, but it's hard, man. It's really hard. Like, think about it this way. Carlos, obviously you have Rodon and Turner, who have been
I'm looking at you, Vance
outcomes for either one.
Ooh.
Right? State has, like, pretty much every player. So here's the big leaguer State has had since then. You have Gino Groover, you have Evan Justice, you have Patrick Bailey, you have Will Wilson, you have Joe Dunand, you have Andrew Kisner. That's it. And Justice got drafted twice. So
and most of those were small cups of tea, or cups of coffee, excuse me.
6. Yeah, exactly. So you're talking about 6 guys over the last 12 years. And again, it's too early to count really either this year or last year's guys. So, 4 and 10 years, it's really hard. And as you said, Greg, those guys have only been cups of coffee. Like, Patrick Bailey has established himself, but even he's really struggled at the plate, and like, it's kind of reached a point, as good as he is defensively, he's kind of reached a point where he may not be long as a established big leaguer. And so, to me, just any of those guys getting there would be a big success. which is more likely. I'm with you, Greg. Like Ty Head jumps off the page, like his numbers jump off the page, but I kind of wonder about his approach at the plate and if that's going to play.
Agreed.
And I think with Dudan, like you feel good about the slide. Like the slider's a big league pitch right now.
That's
Now, obviously,
nasty.
the Tommy John is certainly a wrench of things. Like he's probably not going to pitch in a pro game until 2028.
What do you say pro
That's
game?
gonna be
Pro
hard.
game? You mean like in the
Like,
minors that like
including in the minor leagues, I think.
no, I think
I
he'll be
mean,
back next year.
You think he'll be back? He
Yeah.
had Tommy John surgery in, was it April? Early
April.
May?
Yeah.
April, so late April. So he's like, obviously he's not going to pitch this year. Next year, he's not going to be ready in April.
No.
Are you looking at like June, best case scenario, July? Like the big league, the minor league season ends in August.
Yeah. You get him some innings. I just don't think you can go 2 years without throwing.
No.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I agree. And so to me, that's kind of where the question is. So look, I think Ty Head's ability to stick in center field, will help him. And his approach is great. I just kind of wonder if it's going to get exposed as he kind of moves up the big league ladder. And the other thing with Dudan is, I talked about this on the Patreon. He got drafted as a starter, right? Where for him to go in the third round with Tommy John, he went ahead of where, like, if you're projecting somebody as a reliever, you're not going as high as where Dudan went. And so, this is a guy who's going to develop as a starter, which takes longer. Now, if they were to say, you know what, screw it, let's make him a reliever, then yeah, he's going to get to the big leagues sooner. So I don't know. Like both of those guys have shots for sure.
You mentioned, like, again, I love Ty, like, and this is not a knock on Ty, but he had the second most walks in NC State program history in a single season this year. He might be too patient to a fault, right? And if that's, you can't let good pitches go by because you're only going to get so many in a bat, especially when the competition is, ratcheted up, another notch or two. But again, I think that's something that, he'll have good instruction. They'll work on him with that kind of stuff, identifying pitches, location. Sometimes your talent just, again, I kind of was making fun of Vance Honeycutt earlier. Like sometimes you're so good that it doesn't matter what your faults are. You can overcome them at certain levels, but at some point that's got to even out, right? And the advantage is going to go to the more established guy, and that's my concern.
Yeah. Well, so with Honeycutt's an interesting example because the way he was talked about when he was at UNC, and his strikeout rate was just like you knew it was going to get exposed, and it did. And that's the problem he's run into now. With Ty, I like what you said about walks. It really felt like as a freshman, he was almost trying to walk. And I think that was something that he fixed over the offseason. I didn't really get that sense this year that he was trying to walk. He was trying to do damage. I just wonder about his high end exit velocities are. Like, how do they compare him to Chris McHugh? Compare him to an Andrew Wiggins, compared to a Sherman Johnson, where they can hit the ball 110 miles an hour. I don't think you've necessarily seen that from Ty Head. And so, how is that power going to play? And the other thing, like once you get into the minor leagues, it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to punish me from a power perspective, what's my reason for walking you?
Exactly.
What's my reason for walking? Like, there's no reason. If you hit a single, you hit a single. Okay.
Yep.
Same thing as a walk. And so I think that's sort of the thing that you've got to figure out with Ty Head. It's like, okay, can the 14, I guess, home runs that he hit this year translate? And to me, that's the big question. I like his approach. Obviously, his eye is excellent. He pulls the ball in the air. That's how you get the most out of your power. But
a lot of his home runs felt like just launch angle, high, pop up, fly balls, and the dope helps.
Is that going to play? Right.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, I do want to ask though about Dudan. I think it says a lot about him for sure, even as a prospect, being that he's coming off of Tommy John surgery and still, like we were saying, went number 83 overall here. And I think even Ryan Marohn kind of maybe has fallen into this bubble a little bit here, going at pick number 140 in the 5th round to the Pittsburgh Pirates here. Do you feel like because I mean, both of them, suffered, injuries during the season. One earlier in the season, with Tommy John surgery. You know, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out here, Greg, being like where could they have gone if they had pitched another full healthy season here? Just imagining, could either one of them slipped into the second round? You feel like if they were fully healthy?
I definitely feel that Dudan had the better opportunity, just because he's always projected higher for whatever reason than Marohn. Marohn's kind of just been doubted, since you know before he got to state, he didn't have a ton of big offers, but Marohn is just a pitcher. He's got to figure things out. I think they both have an opportunity to make it to their big league team that drafted them. Um, I did think that I had in my mind, I had Duden going in the third, which is what he did. But having learned some things before the draft, that there was an opportunity at a couple places in the second for him to have landed. It just didn't work out that way. Um, and the draft is a weird thing. Like there was a ton of guys that were ranked below Duden that went ahead of Duden. You're going to see that every year. So just depending on teams' needs and who really fell in love with you, just kind of ends up where you get selected. But I really thought Marohn should have been a day one guy, but it just didn't quite happen, and he just missed out by like what 8-10 spots for being a day one guy.
Mhm. Yeah. Ethan, anything you would add to that?
I still kind of wonder if we have the full story about Ryan Marohn's injury.
Yeah, I
Mm,
agree.
It just doesn't. It doesn't pass the smell test for me. It really doesn't. And I said it at the time. I said, "Hey, NC State needs to come out and say that Ryan Marohn is fully healthy," and they did. Credit to them, they did. Again, they weren't one of the last four in. So did that make the difference in them getting in? Probably not. Um, but I just it doesn't. With his track record, I think Greg, you mentioned it, like the perception is kind of feels like it's lower than it should be, but I also kind of wonder if the perception from pro teams is also higher than public perception.
Mhm.
Um, again, as a top 150 guy, like that's
Still
pretty
good.
good. Like it's good.
Yeah,
It's still good. you know, the fifth just feels so low for me. Like
I
compare
agreed.
him to like Wes Mendez, who I think went second round. Like some of
Well,
the
the
other
guy that
aces
went just right before Duden, DeCaro, like
yeah.
I think I have the name right.
I think DeCaro is a great example. Like just a
Yeah,
guy who performed for 3
yeah,
years.
yeah. That's what Marohn
Um,
is.
and the difference is DeCaro pitched in Omaha, and
Mhm.
Marohn finished the season hurt. Um,
mhm.
and I think that makes a difference. And so I just kind of wonder if there's something else going on there.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. I have no
There could be
idea.
questions. I mean, some of these teams may have
Yeah.
questions, and then some. If there's questions, they're off the board. And how many of those do you get struck out off of people's boards, and that lowers your
Right.
pool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think I don't know. I think Duden could have ended up as a first round pick if he had been
I do
healthy.
too. Yeah.
And finished out the season. I think he was
Well,
tracking with that sort of year.
here's
I
my
didn't.
other thing too, real quick, and I apologize. I'm lagging, like I told you guys, and I apologize. Look, if Duden starts last year and this year, he's a first rounder. Period. I think we did him an injustice with only throwing him 40 innings last year.
Who's we? I was complaining about that all year.
I know you. I'm talking about state baseball did him an injustice. So
No,
you're right. I
yeah.
shouldn't say we because I'm not part of the team. But I think if he starts last year and this year, I would almost be willing to bet he's a first rounder. If not,
Yeah.
no worse than second round.
And again,
I
I
just don't
think
think there
that
was enough
speaks
tape.
for sure. I think that kind of speaks to the type of talent he is, where he made 6-7 starts in his college career, is having Tommy John, and still went in the I think 83rd overall. Is that right?
83rd.
Like to me, that kind of tells you there's a lot of talent here, a lot of
Mhm.
talent,
And they
and
thought very highly of him.
no doubt. And so, again, back to Marohn, like to me, it would have made more sense for him to be kind of in that Duden range, right? If he is fully
Mhm.
healthy, which again,
Mhm.
Avent told us he was. I could have been posturing for sure. To me, he always struck me as that second, third type of round. So I'm really interested, excited to see what Marohn's career look like. I think he's kind of been undervalued, and
Agreed.
I think it's one of the underrated great NC State pitchers since Carlos Rodon. Both of these guys, really.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be some teams wishing that they hadn't passed on Marohn and obviously Dudan as well. Like, I just think, I mean, he was rated. Dudan was ranked, I think, 74, 78, and he goes 83. So that's pretty close to what they valued him as his rank. But again, I still think that was even low, and we're going to be homers, obviously, but I I think Dudan has a chance, if he's able to get back to his full form. I mean, because there's always going to be a question, coming off of a major injury. Though it's a much more successful thing these days than it was 30 years ago. But only time will tell for these two, and then everyone else that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Well, and one guy in particular, too, as well, Ethan, that you had talked about on Twitter, which I do want to ask about, is Chris McHugh, going in the 11th round, pick 335 to the San Diego Padres. You had pointed out to an idea around basically signing somebody, I believe you said in the 10th, 11th round or later, is basically there's no really downside. There's no really risk to it from an MLB team perspective. You can just throw it out there, and if they sign, great. If they don't, then oh well. So maybe this was pointing towards potentially him falling that far because and I'm kind of reading between the lines here, falling that far because there was some possibility of him returning to NC State, being also too that you had also mentioned that NC State baseball had not signed a first baseman yet here. But yet there was reports that came out today saying that he was going to sign with the Padres. I mean, it seems like basically a whirlwind of 24 hours here in terms of, especially probably for you, being that, like you were saying, you were puzzling the pieces together, but then all of a sudden, bam, sign with the Padres here. Did that come as much of a shock to you?
Like, I wouldn't say a shock. No, I still expected Chris McHugh to go. I just thought there was again, I've always been like, hey, if these guys get drafted, they're going to go. There's just very few examples of them not signing. But I thought Chris McHugh sort of fit into the category of maybe he does return, right? And again, there's very few examples. I don't think it's happened since Josh McClain and Brock Deatherage, where you turn down the signing bonus as a junior and come back as a senior. Evan Justice did it as a draft eligible sophomore. And now
That was a good move.
Now it was a good move. Now things have changed. Although he still only signed for $150,000. Anyway, now things have changed with the 5 for 5. So you technically would have an extra year of eligibility. And just kind of reading between the lines, like, okay, NC State doesn't have a first baseman on the roster. Like, I can get my glove ready, but
I mean,
they
technically
probably
they do, but they do.
They have nobody, but you still need a DH.
No, you have Quinn Bentley. You have Quinn Bentley.
You still need a DH.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just correcting you. We do have a first baseman on the roster.
Yeah, and again, now we have the whole Andrew Wiggins thing too. So no, I wasn't surprised. It's too early. I was not surprised that it was Chris McHugh will sign. I just kind of thought like there was some reading between the lines where it was like, okay, and I know we had heard stuff potentially during the season that it was like maybe something to keep an eye on, but obviously just didn't play out that way. And again, with these draft eligible guys, you always expect them to go, and you have to plan as such. And if they come back, it's a bonus.
Yeah. What I will say, and I would like your thoughts on this too, Ethan. I was surprised from the perspective that Cooper Consiglio went before Chris McHugh.
You don't want my thoughts on this, Greg?
I mean, yes, but not first.
Layton, you go first. Yeah. No, you go first.
I ain't got much. Go ahead, Ethan.
Let's see, Greg. Let's see who signs for more money. That would be because Cooper Consiglio kind of went in the money saving portion of the draft,
right on the edge. Yes.
Yeah. So
agreed. And that wasn't a knock on either one of these guys too. Like Coop was I don't know the right way to say it, but a product of bad managing, if you will. We've had this conversation.
But I think I don't think that impacted the way MLB teams viewed him. I really don't think it did.
No,
You
I
know, I
don't
think
think
it made
so.
his numbers look worse, but I don't think
Yes.
that I thought he did better in this draft than I was expecting. And again, let's see how much he signs
Agreed.
for because again, if his signing, I don't remember what his slot was, probably around
It's like
150, 200.
175,000, I
Okay.
think it was, something like that.
Okay. So if he
It was under
says,
2.
yeah, okay. So if he says, "Hey, I'll sign for 125 or 150," then you're going to save a few bucks there, not
Yeah.
a meaningful amount there. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if Chris McHugh does end up signing earlier, but I thought Consiglio, he did better than I expected. I expected him to be a
Agreed.
rounds 11 through 20 guy.
Agreed. That was exactly where, and that's why I was saying, like, I didn't expect McHugh to be a around 11 or later guy. I thought McHugh would be around 7, 8, somewhere around there. I know you were talking about it earlier today as well, and I know we'll talk about Sherman Johnson. So if you want to go there next, Layton, that way we can have that part of the conversation. Unless
Yeah,
you're going
no,
in
well,
order. Unless you're going in order of draft.
well, no, because I skipped the Chris McHugh, but obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big storyline, for sure. Because especially like Ethan had pointed out, well, could he return kind of deal here as well. So, but yeah, no, Sherman Johnson, I think for me, this is really like of all of them, for me, was the biggest, "All right." Like, "You
Mhm.
go, Sherm." Like, for me, like, I didn't really have a lot of, like, I guess, high confidence of that, he would get drafted this early. But, going to a program, Cincinnati Reds, I think it's a good fit for him. And I think, he's a guy that showed a lot of promise and some really big moments for NC State this season. So kind of gives, in my opinion, really kind of Geno Groover vibes here a little bit, in terms of a guy that, has the ability to launch the ball if needed, and also too in big situations. Has a lot of clutch moments to his name, especially just this last season here. So, obviously dealt, I believe, as well with a little bit of probably some nagging injury stuff here late in the season, especially during the regional. But again, just a guy that came to NC State, and performed, I think, in some big moments. And hats off to him. And hey, love where he ended up, and love that he got drafted in a spot where he's gonna make some good chunk of change here for it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Sherman Johnson was the biggest stock up guy this season.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in, I didn't think he would play, if I'm being honest. I thought Wyatt Pfeiffer would play over him. I thought it was a battle between him and Mikey Ryan at short. Obviously, they both ended up playing. Credit to NC State for getting that decision right. They moved him
Unlike
around
previous
a
years.
little. They moved him around a little bit. I'm still not saying I'm still not saying Wyatt Pfeiffer shouldn't have played at all. By the way, I think
Agreed.
there were other solutions,
Agreed.
but
Agreed.
like Sherman Johnson for me, like just was not a guy really on the radar, and so he ended up he went lower than I expect, like lower than I
Mhm.
expected going into the draft. I've seen him on some lists, like he was borderline top 100 on
Mhm.
some lists that
Wow.
I saw, and so I thought he was a guy who was really, really stock up, especially the back half of the season. I think his under the hood stuff, which again, that's what they're drafting based off of, was impressive. I think his exit velocities, his strike zone discipline. I think he did a lot of those things. I think athletically he grades out really well. He's got some versatility defensively.
Mhm.
So
Which
again,
could
as a
hurt him,
seventh round,
actually.
it could.
Just
I don't-
just from a developmental standpoint, that's all. That's all I'm getting at. Not that he can't play.
maybe, yeah, maybe, but I also think like as a first round pick, I would agree with you. Like as a big time
Yeah.
prospect, I do think that hurts you. But
Yeah.
as a guy who's a seventh round pick, like you got to find a way to stick around.
Mhm.
So if he develops into a big time prospect, yeah, I would agree. But obviously, we'll see where it
fair.
goes. I would not be surprised at all if this is the guy who, kind of gets himself on the radar, almost like a Brandon Butterworth type of situation. I need to check on Butterworth and see where he is. I believe he has
He's in the Orioles
significantly
organization.
outperformed. Yeah, because he got traded, right? He got traded for somebody. But
Mhm.
I would not be at all surprised to see him outperform, where he is. Butterworth is currently in AA,
AA.
and he's performing like he is. So again, like as a 13th round pick for Butterworth, like pretty solid, And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen with Sherman Johnson either. And again, what a success story, a late ad.
Yep.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah,
worked
I,
out
I
well.
agree with you, Ethan. Like he's a guy that we just didn't have any really good tape on him, good information on him. There wasn't really a lot out there, that to your point, Pfeiffer had a little bit more clout, prestige, whatever you want to call it, coming from the program that he came from, just had a little bit more experience. And started off a little rough for Sherman, but he was just adapting to the level of play that he was playing against. It's not JUCO ball anymore, and I thought he would, to everyone's point, he was probably state's second best player on the roster the last month and a half of the season. I think Mikey Ryan was the best player. Again, another player that struggled earlier on the season that we just didn't. We had high expectations, but it took him a while to get
Mhm.
going. And look, there's mocks out there right now that are showing Mikey Ryan as a first round draft pick that I've seen.
Wow.
And we'll talk about that, at some other point. But Sherman Johnson, I thought, to your point as well, Ethan, I thought he had a chance to be late 5, early 6 round kind of guy. And I
Mhm.
think he's just gonna be one of those guys. Next thing you know, he's playing in AAA, knocking on the door of the majors. I do think he has that ability. He's just just someone that just goes out and plays ball wherever you ask him to play, do whatever you ask him to do. Very coachable kind of kid and does all the right things. So I root for all of them, but there's a few that I root for a little bit harder than others.
Yeah. Now, Greg, I guess, were you surprised seeing Luke Nixon go before Sherman Johnson?
Yes, only because I just thought Sherman had a little bit more. And I was surprised that Luke went as high as he did. I had him pegging. I I had him going like just after Sherman, probably like 6th or 7th round. Uh, but maybe Ethan thinks of it a little differently. But he showed a lot. I mean, he was state's probably second or third best hitter, especially when it came to ACC play. Very good. I would say slightly plus defender. Has pedigree. Those are things that scouts fall in love with, and they value defense. Pedigree, like I said, doesn't hurt. And then the fact that he's gotten better offensively each season at NC State, so you still think there's might be some more to be tapped into, and that's what scouts are hoping. Maybe there's one more notch that he can get to.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ethan.
I thought for Nixon, he really checks the intangibles box between his dad. I think I don't want to say he plays the game the right way because that sort of implies
He plays
that
like a
others don't.
dirtbag, and that's what you
He's a
want for a baseball
dirtbag.
player.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
think he has the right approach that teams are looking like. What do we talk about with Andrew Wiggins? Pulling the ball in the air. You know what Luke Nixon does really well? He pulls the ball in the air. So you don't have to teach him how to do that. You don't have to teach him how to work on the fundamental. Like he's already
He started from
checked
age
those
4.
boxes. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so he's checked a lot of boxes that like he's ahead developmentally of where other guys are. Now, as he moves up the ladder, right, that becomes harder and harder to, separate yourself. And so I had actually I had heard that, and I put something in the Patreon. I comped him to Tyler McDonough and thought that was a possibility where he could. McDonough went 3rd round, and so I thought he could end up there. Obviously, that quite didn't happen. Goes a little later. McDonough went 75th overall. So and Nixon went 150th. So a little lower there. So I thought come draft time, I did expect him to go a little higher than he did. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, again, all like the intangibles box is what he checks. And again, like the
He's gonna do
political
things the
part
right
of it,
way.
he's going to do things the right way. And the political part of it, like, does somebody in the Giants organization know him? Is he going to get a little bit longer of a look because his dad is a big leaguer? Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. So,
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to kind of finish off here our MLB conversation piece here, I did want to bring it back to where we really started this live stream, talking about the historic piece to it, specifically tied to Coach Avent here. Obviously with Coach Avent now after this draft, coached 143 draft picks over his 30-year tenure, including 64 alone since 2015. And now he's had 4 picks in the top 150 for the first time in program history, and as well back-to-back years with at least 6 draft picks, which is the first time in program history here. Uh, you know, Greg here, just, what is this, just, and, they always like to say, go out on top here. And with Coach Avent and, how he truly is a definition of a player's coach, would do anything for his players here for sure. The fact that he can go out saying, "Hey, listen, I was able for at least 6 of y'all for the last 2 years to get y'all signed, to an MLB franchise." That's a pretty cool, I mean, I would say accomplishment. I would say that's probably at the top of that list, thinking about how Coach Avent is leaving his legacy here.
Absolutely. Now with Chris Hart taking the reins, one of the things that he can use as a recruiting tool is like, hey, we had the second most draft picks in the ACC in the major league drafts last year. Over the last 10 years, we've had this amount. Like, the numbers just speak for themselves. And as a recruit, I think you want to be in the best position to get drafted and make it to your goal, whatever that goal is, right? Whether it's to get drafted, to make it to the majors, whatever that looks like. State gives you that opportunity. And, we've had first round draft picks, and we've had, people that go on and have long careers, not only on the field, but in the broadcast booth for baseball. So again, whatever your goal is, state gives you that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Ethan, anything you would add in terms of, what this means really for Coach Avent's legacy here? And, would you say that, you know, this is up there in terms of his maybe crowning achievement on the way out?
Don't ask.
Well, I don't want to spoil the stat pack, and I also don't want. I also don't want to be a Debbie Downer. If I was being a Debbie Downer, which I'm not, let's just make that clear. I'm a little disappointed with the postseason with this many draft picks over the last 2 years. Again, not being a Debbie Downer, just saying if I was, that's what I would be a Debbie Downer about.
Hey, I had the 40-minute mark, you would make the negative comment, and I was just missing by 12 seconds. So
yeah. Again, I'll give him a pass for this year.
Absolutely.
But 13 draft picks the last 2 years, and all but one of them were on that team last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah.
Outside of Sherman Johnson, right? The rest of them were?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, then since we've teased it here, let's just go ahead here and jump into it. But before we do that, I do want to plug once again as well that if you want Ethan's full MLB draft thoughts specifically, and also too as well a ton of insider members only content, make sure to go to our Patreon link down in the description below. Only $5 a month, 3 members only videos a week, plus access to our members only rumor chat, where we already dropped a rumor today regarding men's basketball. So make sure to go sign up, link down in the description below, sign up here today. But with that being said, let's jump on over to Ethan's stat pack. Well, I want to say, first of all, huge thanks to our amazing sponsor here, Alpha CPR Certified Training. Just amazing what they are doing with the CPR certified training, which are the versatility behind it, offering for pediatric, but also to adult courses as well. That meets OSHA standards, valid for 2 years. And also, too, they can bring the training directly to you. So no travel is required from your end. Sounds like an absolute deal of a setup here to me. So make sure to go check out our amazing sponsor, Alpha Wolf CPR Training at alphawolfcpr.square.site today. So, Ethan, let's not hold it back anymore in here, my man. Let's jump into what's your stat pack of the week, just to bring the Debbie down on the show here today, man.
No, this is not a Debbie Downer. This is not.
Okay,
I wasn't doing
okay,
that. I was just saying hypothetically.
I see.
So two numbers here for you guys. First is 13. That is the number of draft picks over the last 2 years. That is the most over a 2-year stretch. I know
Did
we
you get
kinda hit
that,
it at
Greg? 13 drafts picks over the last 2 years. Did you
Yeah,
get
and you
that?
got a couple others that didn't get drafted that are still signed, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I didn't count those. Those guys,
Sure.
I didn't count them because not as like a knock on them or anything, just it's
Mhm.
hard to keep
No,
up with them. They don't show up on
absolutely.
the baseball reference page, so I don't wanna count the undrafted guys this year and not in previous
Mhm.
years. So
Mhm.
13, obviously, they've had some big numbers in the past. I believe the highest prior to this was 11 in 17 and 18. Um, the other thing too is this is the most who have signed. So they've had a few in the past that have got up to the 12, 13 number, but not everybody has signed, right? We talked about Evan Justice did not sign as a sophomore. Josh McClain, Brock Deathridge did not sign when they were drafted as juniors. And again, when the draft was 40 rounds, that was a more common thing. Now it's a 20-round draft. We talked about Chris McHugh. Chris McHugh is going to sign. All of these guys are going to sign. So it's going to be 13 total over the last 2 years. The other number that I'm going to be watching here, Greg, over the next 2 weeks, from the financial perspective, the number to beat let me ask you guys this: 10 million between Carlos Rodon and Trey Turner. Will that number ever be beaten by an NC State group of? And actually, let me rephrase. It's approximately 10 million. I don't have it
Yeah.
down to the dollar,
Yeah.
but it also includes Brett Austin. So Rodon was 6.5 million, Turner was 2.9, and then Brett Austin was a shade under 500,000. Do you think NC State will ever have a draft class that cumulatively tops those three guys? And that was a small draft. That was only 3 guys, right? We're
Yep.
used to State having a number
Yeah.
of guys. That was one of their smaller classes, but with those big guys at the top, obviously
Yeah.
that got them to million.
For a little bit of context that people that are listening, like $10 million was going to the number 1 draft pick this year as the slot value. The slot value for Jacob Dudan at 83 was just under $1 million. So if you look at it in those numbers, and it drops drastically from like 10 to 5 is like it cuts in half. And so you're really going to have to get some heavy hitters up in the top part of your draft class. And so I
But
say
it may only take one.
it may only take one, right? But you need a guy in the top 5.
Right.
I don't know if State's recruiting at that level right now.
Hmm.
Not to say that can happen.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that I believe in records being broken, and so I'm gonna say yes, it will be at some point.
Yeah.
This decade?
Well,
Well, as salaries are going up, it makes it easier. So I will say that much, right?
I would keep an eye on Mikey Ryan. I really
I think
like
Mikey has a chance to be really special next year. 100%.
not that Mikey Ryan is, again, you compare him to like Rock Chalowski, Von Lackey. Like I don't think he's in that category.
He could be
But
top
if he were
15
to get
though.
up, if he could get up into the top half of the first round, that's where Trey
Mhm.
Turner went.
Mhm.
That's where Will Wilson went. You talked about
Yeah.
it. Like that's going to
Yeah.
be, I think that's $3, $4, $5 million range. And then
Yeah.
do you have Anderson Nance in the back half of the first round, right? That feels aggressive, but again, that's kind of the point. It only takes one guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Layton. What do you think?
yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's obviously the word "ever" is the key word there. I
Right.
think for you, Ethan, on that is who knows really where things are going to go with baseball. I mean, it can go a myriad of different ways here, but
Mhm.
I mean, as well too, though. I mean, I think also too. I mean, with Carlos Rodon and Trey Turner, the careers they've had in the major leagues have been absolutely phenomenal. Trey Turner at one point being considered probably the best shortstop in baseball, at a period of time. So, like, there's that's quite a feather to put in your cap here, regardless of the money that's made. Now, I know that the money being made is a huge pull, especially from a recruiting standpoint, to be able to say, like, our guys right now are able to pull in X amount of millions of dollars in MLB contracts. That could be quite a statement if you have, some solid numbers there. So, but just like you were saying, it's kind of a number like what I'm thinking through in my head, Greg, by you talking about how the first overall pick is slot worth is about $10 million. Can Carlos and Trey kind of, Brett Austin kind of, could they have equaled up to that $10 million point, thinking about, okay, like, the first overall pick versus Trey Turner, Carlos Rodon, and, it's just like a trade step point. Where would I stand with it? Again, it's a tough question there. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I think it just like Greg was saying, with how the fact that numbers have gone up, just with how sports is going, with inflation, you name it. You never know. Hey, listen, there it could be 10, 15 years from now that fifth round draft pick is getting paid $5 million, out the gate. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I you mentioned the career earnings, which is interesting. Do you guys have a guess? I'm really burying the lead here with my last number for the stat pack, but Rodon and Turner's career earnings. Do you guys have a guess?
I would probably go like 350, 375 million.
Oh, combined?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were asking for.
No, that is a good a good guess. What was it, Greg? 300?
I said
350.
350. Yeah.
Yeah.
350.
I would say it's a little bit high. I would say 280.
That's lower. Oh, you said my number was too high.
Correct. I think it's 280.
So Turner is currently at 154 million. And he's got a very long contract. Turner is going to eclipse 300 million by the end of his contract. Rodon, so I believe, Greg, you were correct. Rodon is at
Shocker.
148. So they're pretty much identical. And Rodon's contract, obviously, he's got 2 years left with the Yankees. He is at 148, and he won nearly 149. So he's not going to pass. He's never going to catch up to Trey, obviously.
Sure.
But he is set to eclipse. Where did that go? I lost it. He is set to eclipse 200 million, I believe, by the end of his contract.
It's crazy.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and the beauty about that is baseball's fully guaranteed, so they're going to see every single one of those dollars. It's not like football.
That's right.
All right, excuse me. Yeah, football. Sorry.
All right. So my second number is related to Turner and Rodon. That again, I keep burying the lead here. Is the total signing bonus for these 7 players? So Turner and Rodon set the bar at 10 million. The State had another year at 5 million. Do you guys have I don't know if you guys are going to get this one. 5 million. Do you guys have a guess at the year that happened?
Man,
it's relatively recent. It's not.
Yeah, I was
super
gonna.
recent, but
Yeah, I was gonna say like 2010, 11.
No, more recent.
No, not that far.
Okay.
I'm thinking like maybe like the
Well,
Patrick Bailey year.
That was it.
That's one.
Yeah, Bailey and Sweeney. It was only 2 guys. It was the COVID draft, but Bailey signed for 3.8 and Sweeney signed for 1.2. So they're right at about 5 million. Greg,
so the numbers this year. Yeah, the numbers this year are going to be pretty good.
Very, very close. Very close.
Because Ty should be about 2.5 million, I think, is what I saw.
Yeah, he's at 2.18. Dudan is a shade under $1 million.
Yeah.
Marohn is a shade over 500. Nixon is a shade under 500.
Yeah.
So that would get you to about 4 million. And then you have Sherman Johnson at 283, Consiglio at 202, and then whatever Chris McHugh signs for. It's going to be tight. I do wonder if Ty Head being a draft eligible sophomore and having an extra year of leverage,
he might squeeze a little bit more.
He might squeeze a little bit more. Could he get up to 2.5? But otherwise, this is going to be the top. This is going to be the third best year, I should say. Actually, let me check
volume,
on the year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
This is the volume year for sure. And those other years have all been, it's been 1 or 2 guys. Well, 2 guys carrying the water pail, so to speak.
Well, and again, like I said,
like you said, is the depth.
Yeah, and again, if you have another year like this in a year or 2, as the numbers keep going up, you have guys maybe slotted just a little bit higher, it's definitely doable. It just depends on the strategy, how you get there.
Right. So Ty Head went 46th overall. Jacob Cozart went 48th 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And Cozart signed for 2.05, which I believe was higher than his slot, if I'm not mistaken. I remember being like, wow, he did very, very well for himself.
What about
And so
Gino? Because they had the same number
so
a
Gino
year
was
earlier.
a year earlier. Yeah, he also went 48th. He was 1.78.
So but look at that. In 1
Um,
year, it jumped.
Yeah. So that'll be something to keep an eye on here. Can they get past the 5 million number? It's going to be very tight.
Gino
Put
was a
gun to my
senior,
head, I
right?
would guess no. No, Gino was a junior.
Was he a junior? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was 1 year at Charlotte and 2 at
Okay, I
State.
couldn't remember. I couldn't remember if he had 2 at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's going to be very tight. I would guess they probably come up just short of the 5 million number, but it's going to be close. They've got a shot to.
Yeah,
to
because I think,
surpass that.
like, again, I talk about baseball, and my buddy who I work with is like, so how does the MLB draft work? I said, it is the most complicated sport there is when it comes to draft value and overslotting, underslotting, rounds 12 plus, rollover money from previous years, pool money for 3 years. Like, it's so confusing.
Right.
Well, but
So
also
who
too
knows?
is but see the other issue too with it though, Greg, is the fact that like with the NFL, the guy that's going number one overall, you're 99% going to see them on the field playing it for that team next year. Number one overall, even first round draft picks. They still have to go through the process.
Yeah,
To
it's
get there
very
more than
rare.
that.
It's very rare to jump from. I mean, you saw it back in the day a little bit more often, but
Mhm.
it's still, even for like a number one draft pick, especially a high school kid. Like this year, the kid from UCLA goes number one. He'll probably make the majors in like probably 2 to 3 years. Ideally, that's what they would like. But the kid from Tampa Bay, it's probably going to take him 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
These are
Well, so
long-term investments in some cases.
Well, so to my point is that, basically, in my opinion, that's what kind of takes off a little bit of the sparkle to the MLB draft is the fact that these guys that you're seeing, you're not going to see them on your TV, like you said, probably at least 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
from now. And by then, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy, kind of deal. Like, and so it's, it's a little bit different than NFL draft where
Yeah.
Again, if you're getting drafted in top 10, you're going to see them playing on your TV here in a couple months. It's
Yeah, when
almost a
Ethan is
guarantee.
done with his stat pack, I'm gonna need a on the fly what grinds my gears.
Well, I mean, Ethan, do you have anything else to add here before we jump over to it?
That's all I got. 13 draft picks over the last 2 years, $5 million
like it.
signing bonus collectively for these guys to surpass.
There you go. All right, let's jump on over grind my gears.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Greg, the floor is all yours, my friend.
The MLB draft grinds my gears. I hate that I had to change the channel 3 freaking times to go find like where the draft goes from NBC to Peacock to MLB Network. Oh, and then we got to take a 30-minute break between rounds 3 and 4. Like, what the hell is that? Like, who takes a break? Like, is there a union break? Like, they have this in the contract where they get 30 minutes to take a break. Like, most absurd thing ever. All right, I'm done. I only need 30 seconds.
Well,
You
I mean,
guys
I
can
guess I will,
digest that if you want.
yeah. Well, and hey, listen, I think, you at this point, you're so close to football season. I think it's almost un-NC State of us if we don't mention football, at least in some point. Again, I think it's just a reminder of today's day and age. CJ Bailey talk, in his quote talking about how he heard during the offseason before he made a decision to come back to NC State from many different programs and
Yeah, we
heard
didn't
them
even talk
out,
about
things
that.
like that. Again, like, I get it. Like, technically, technically it's not illegal, but
No, it
it's
is illegal.
okay. I mean,
It's not
not
if it
illegal to talk
was,
to
if
the
it,
agent.
if it was, Greg,
Correct.
then why?
Correct. No.
It's
Ethan said it right.
go ahead.
Ethan, say it again.
It's not illegal to talk to the agent.
Yeah. Well, because again, that's my thing, Greg. It's like it's been publicly said. If it was truly illegal, you would not be publicly saying it without any kind of backlash at all about it. Now, I think that the problem is also too, okay, well, who are these programs that are talking? Well, you're gonna have a hard time finding that, without spending some time tracking down with the agent, et cetera,
Well,
whatever. But you know,
at the end of the day, he phrased it wrong. He should have
correct.
said, "My agent has heard from blah 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 blah," instead of "I've heard from blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
Again, nothing. It's probably just slip of the tongue, Freudian slip, whatever.
Sure.
But
It's semantics. Yeah.
it's semantics. Exactly right. Like, did he probably hear from them? Probably so.
Probably.
Officially, my agent heard from so and so. That's probably how that shit goes down. Pardon my language. Sorry, what time are we at?
What time is it?
Yeah, 9:30.
Greg,
Close enough.
Greg, there's kids.
Yeah. Anyway, I apologize.
yeah.
I normally, but
No.
yeah, you're 100% right, Ethan. Like,
Again,
You
so
guys
for me,
can.
so for me,
you go,
and,
Layton.
and Ethan, I'll let you finish it out, and we can move on to tweets of the week here. So my grinds my gears is just more of that. It's just unfortunately another reminder of we're in a new era. We truly are in a new era, and it is what it is. So go ahead, Ethan.
Do you guys think that NC State was the highest bidder for CJ Bailey?
No,
I do.
really,
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
really.
I don't buy the clip this. I don't buy the CJ Bailey turned down Miami and Alabama, whoever else. I don't buy it. I think NC State was the highest bidder, and I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, CJ Bailey's not loyal. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, there's a reason he's coming back. And so I'm with you, Greg. I think NC State was the highest bidder for CJ Bailey, and that's why he came back.
Well, and Greg, I'll let you add in, but like for me, it's just I immediately said no because I'm just never going to envision NC State being the school that is the top bidder for a very high draft prospect in quarterback of all positions in CJ Bailey. I just can't wrap my head around that.
I mean, they did it for Darion Williams.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
also don't think that. Look, no offense. I love CJ Bailey, by the way. I've had several conversations with him. Absolutely love him. So I don't want people to take this the wrong way. I don't think that he's as high a draft prospect as people are saying at this moment, but he 1,000% has his his opportunity to play himself into that conversation this year.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. It's what could he become, not what is he right now.
Correct. 100% agreed. And he's a
Yeah.
great player. I mean, he's a really good player. Like, would he be drafted today if the draft were to be tomorrow? Yes, I do. I don't think he would be in the first 3 rounds, but he definitely is drafted.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, with that being said, let's jump on over to tweets of the week, y'all, and highlight a couple more things before we wrap this episode up. Heath Andrews signing as an undrafted free agent here, having 117 strikeouts over the last 3 seasons here. Greg, I know when you were putting this together here, this is probably one, given the flowers here for sure, a guy that's, spent, a good amount of time here at NC State. Again, having a solid career, again, 117 strikeouts over 3 seasons is, not elite, but it's nothing to sneeze at. It's solid, production here for sure over 3 seasons here. But, what would you say, in terms of, when talking about Heath Andrews and him ending up as an undrafted free agent to the Cleveland Guardians?
Yeah, it's one of those instances where he tried to go the Dom Fritton route. If you want to put a comp on this, I would think this is kind of one of those situations where I think had his number been whatever his number was last year, been a number where MLB teams were interested, I think that he would have gone last year. But he played the stock market and kind of, didn't quite hit for what he wanted. I also think that he's a product of, again, maybe some mismanagement. We've had the conversation here on this channel multiple times, and I actually talked with some players that would agree that, like, there were times that Heath was left out there to dry. I also think that I don't think because of who he the Denny Green, he is who he thought he was type deal. I don't think his stock is going to get any higher. And so at this point, I think it's best for him to get his pro career going and see what he can do. And kind of go the Sam Heifel route at this point.
Yeah. Ethan, I wanted jump here to our second tweet here pretty quickly, but anything you'd add here about Heath Andrews and your thoughts of him going as an undrafted free agent here?
No, Cleveland's a great spot, and I
Mhm.
sort of wonder if he passed on other opportunities, even though it meant going undrafted to end up with Cleveland. I think that would be a good move. Highly, highly regarded for
That's a good point.
their pitching development.
Really good point.
So yeah, I don't know. Like you mentioned last year, like I don't know if maybe I don't know that he lost out on money. Again, he can still sign for up to 125,000 here, right? And so how much was he getting offered last year? I doubt it was much. I like the Dom Fritton comparison, Greg. So, this one made sense. And obviously we still have Andrew Wiggins to keep an eye on here. But yeah, I
Can't
thought
let it go, can you?
this one, no, this one made sense. This one made sense. But at the same time, if you're NC State, you saw him go undrafted. I'm sure they still, at that point, had a good read on the situation. You never turn arms away, even though as much as we've debated Heath Andrews, like you need as many arms as you can get, as we saw this year.
And he's not a bad pitcher. Like honestly,
he's
I
not.
think he would be a good reliever. I really do. I think he'd be good once through a lineup. You give him a couple innings. I think there's potential there. I just don't know if we used him in his best light.
Yeah. So moving on to our second tweet, though, now talking about something to get really excited about here, and that is NC State baseball signee outfielder Gunnar Alm, NC State's highest ranked signee, reaffirmed his commitment after the MLB draft. The number 79 recruit in the nation and top ranked player in North Carolina will be coming to campus next season here. Ethan, your initial reaction?
Big get for NC State.
Heck yeah.
I had talked about it ahead of time. I didn't think Alm was. I mean, the last few years, State has lost guys to the draft. Last year was Aiden West and CJ Gray. The year before that, it was Devin Fitzgerald. Year before that was Landon Morales. State has lost guys every year. I did
Good
not
ones, too.
think good ones. I did not think that Alm was quite in that category, but some of the reporting that's come out, I think he was higher. He was closer to going than I thought he would be.
Yep.
I guess is the way I would frame it. And so, to get him in is a big deal. Obviously, very, very highly regarded player. For me, instant impact. I think he's a starter from day one, and a big deal for NC
Where?
State.
Right
Either
or left
right field
field?
or left field. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
I'm
those two.
just curious if you had a preference.
Yeah. I mean, I still I think Rhett will be in center. So I would guess Alm will be in one of the corners, but
Yeah, agreed.
I do think
Anyway.
there's some flexibility there. I don't think Rhett is a lock for center. I do think he will be there, but I consider it a little bit more of an open competition than like Ty Head. So maybe something to see there, but yeah, like State is recruited on with this roster as if they're expecting Gunnar Alm to come in and play from day one and be an impact bat. So I think that's kind of what you're expecting here.
Yep.
Yeah. Greg, anything you add to that?
No, it sounds like he definitely spurred some offers. Don't know what his number was. So either, obviously it didn't get met, whatever that number was. Like, was he a guy that just had a really high number because he really wanted to go to State, or what the case is? But I will tell you one thing. NC State will probably have the fastest outfield next year in the ACC. Look, when we talk about team identities, if this team doesn't steal 100 bases next year, I don't know what we're doing. But that's for another day.
Ethan, easy, my friend. Easy. Hold it deep inside. I know.
Hey, there's a new sheriff in town. We might be running.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Oh man, Ethan's over there. Yep. Let me go, Layton. I know.
Let me cook.
I know.
And I haven't seen these tweets. Is there a Landon Church tweet in here too, or no?
No, there's no.
I didn't do.
I
I
think
was
Landon
trying to go
Church is
not super baseball heavy. I know, shocker.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
apologies.
we're past that
no,
at this
no.
point.
No, but
Yeah,
it's a
we're
good point.
past
Go ahead and
that
bring
point.
it up because there's truth to
Landon-
that as well.
Yeah, Landon Church is another name in this recruiting class that had some interest in this draft and obviously turned it down, didn't get drafted.
Yep.
So he'll be making it to campus. Again, a guy I think we threw his name out there on the Patreon as well. A guy I think there was probably a little more interest than you would have thought. And you just never know in those situations. So at least for me, Greg, I've got Landon Church in the lineup right now. I do. and I expect him to
Yeah.
get a chance to play, and we'll see. I think he is a under the radar name that I expect again to have a big impact next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be breaking this down as we get ready for fall ball, I'm sure, Ethan, you and I. But yeah, there's no one on the roster that's not that can't be challenged for a spot at this point in my mind. Other than Mikey Ryan. Yeah, that's
And
exactly.
I don't think Red either.
No, I agree with that statement. But I mean, all right, 7 out of the 10, starting fielding positions, there's no one that I'm handing the job to, or 7 out of 10 positions, including DH.
Hunter Warren probably. So those three probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
You
but
could see
who knows?
Warren? Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
All right, you know what? They're all locked. So
I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm going home.
Layton's like, can we please be done with baseball?
I know. He's like, and that's why I only
no.
gave 2 tweets.
Well, and
Yeah.
hey, but speaking of though, too, I want to switch here to one of my favorite conversation pieces here, and Greg, I'll let you kind of give a little bit of the background here. But we had some interesting announcements here going on here from the ACC commissioner Jim Phillips here.
Yeah, Al Riveron, who'd been the lead ACC official for I think the last 3 years, if my memory serves me, former NFL guy, former rules analyst, and all that stuff, had been with the ACC, just up and retired on a Tuesday. No real explanation given other than he wants to spend time with family, which, of course, when you get, there's a lot of gray in that hair, so he's probably in his 60s. When you get up in that age group, maybe it's time to slow down a little bit and enjoy the leaves and smelling the roses. But yeah, so we had to replace him. So unless you have anything to say about this, hey, we
Yeah,
have a new
Mr.
hire.
Gary Patterson, which definitely rung some bells. I think of no,
Yeah, because of what happened. Like, what was it, last year, the year before last?
right.
He basically quit at halftime, like took his whistle and went home.
Huh?
Okay, I don't remember for that. So give
What?
the background here. What for?
He
Even
quit mid-season after a Syracuse and UConn game and didn't like the way that game was heading as far as officiating. Y'all don't remember this story?
no.
All
Wow.
right, hold on. All right. Talk amongst yourselves, and I'll get the.
Is this something that happened? Did you dream this?
No, it 100% happened.
You said it was Syracuse versus UConn?
Yeah, it was after the game. He didn't quit at halftime. That was a little sarcasm. So sorry if anyone took that seriously.
Veteran. Well, here's what AI
Go for
says.
it. You got it
Veteran
quicker.
ACC
Yeah.
head referee Gary Patterson quit his position following a highly controversial replay sequence. The command center forced a delayed review on an incomplete pass after the next play had already been snapped.
That's a classic. That
This
is a
was last
classic
year, that wasn't that
situation
long
for.
ago.
That's a classic situation for video review if I've ever heard one.
Mhm.
I mean, how many times have we seen plays get reviewed when like what was it, the most famous one, Cleveland Browns, the bottle gate, I mean that's a classic one right there, classic situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, I guess hashtag ACC refs isn't going with Al. It's staying right here with Gary, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, he was done. This was after week 2 of the 2025 season. So just, a year ago.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the reason why I actually included this, because it was like, you literally quit because you didn't like how ACC officiating was in the replay, which, by the way, under Al Riveron, he's the one that brought forth, the transparency of, showing those during a game, which, by the way, I believe the Big 12 or Big 10 is adopting that as well. I can't remember which big it was, but one of those conferences is now doing that. So the ACC was very innovative in that regard. But then to bring this guy on in charge of, which is wild, right? If you think about it. So it's like, well, if I can't fix it, I'm going to quit until I can fix it, and they hire me.
That's
Anyway,
interesting.
just found it interesting, and
Yeah.
so hashtag ACC refs suck. That should be the lead here.
100%. Last tweet of the week here, college basketball review. But before I talk about this tweet here, Greg, I don't know much about college basketball reviews. I mean, I know that has a
It's
blue.
not much. It's not
I was
much.
gonna say,
Look,
okay.
it's July 13th, and I didn't know how much we were going to be talking about baseball, so I just threw this in there. If you notice, I put it at the very last one. We can talk about it. We don't have to talk about it.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
or we
spend 2
can save
minutes
this for
on it.
anotall week.
No, hey, I mean, we got it up. Let's talk about it here for 2 minutes. So college basketball review came out with all-time rankings and has NC State number 21 from a basketball program. Am I reading this correctly?
Yes, just
Basically,
purely basketball.
so the all-time college basketball programs has NC State number 21. I would take that. I think that's, again, I'm trying to do it like, shoot, I can't even put 15
I
names
think
off
what we
the
should
head right
do
now.
is not to tell Ethan what to do, but he should definitely break this down in his stat pack for next week and tell us if this is a good, a fair ranking.
Yeah.
Well, for starter, isn't it 13 teams that have won multiple national titles?
That sounds about right.
So
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get, like, are you worried about others? Like, I guess the case against NC State is recency bias, which makes sense. I mean, it's been
Correct.
40 years since they won a title, but they've got a recent Final Four. They've got a recent ACC title. They've been in the tournament on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it feels low, but again, what are the other teams? And again, recency bias, I get it. Like,
Yeah, this guy's
you know.
probably under 30, right? Like, let's be real, that a lot of these people that create these little
Yeah.
pages here are fairly
Like, would
young.
you take? Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a team that's been better recently. I would say
Well,
Florida. although
apparently 20
Florida
other
now has
teams.
more national titles. Apparently 20
Yeah.
other teams. Yeah. Like Villanova? Like, do you have this list in front of you or no?
I
Villanova
don't.
to me would be, I'm pretty sure Villanova only has 2. I guess they might have more. But
No,
their
they have
2 are
3.
recent.
They have
Oh,
3.
do they have
They
3?
won
Okay.
one in the 80s. They beat
All right, we'll
Georgetown in
scratch
the
that
80s.
then.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it's just tough. Like, recency bias is going to work against NC State in this situation, and they'll probably end up being ranked a little lower than they probably deserve, which I can't necessarily blame somebody for that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm with you, Ethan. There's 13 teams that have multiple national championships. Before the last 40 years, to your point, State had won a good amount of ACC titles. I would think 21's a little low. I would probably put it around 15 if I'm being honest, without looking at the rest of the lists. Because State is a very storied program, but in the last 40 years, to your point, it's been a little topsy-turvy. Topsy-turvy. I think that's right. Anyway, I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, we want to say they're joining us here live or watching us back later on too as well here. So I want to wrap it up here by just saying, if you haven't already, make sure to smash that subscribe button. If you haven't already, it's free to do. It really helps support the channel a ton too as well. And also too as well, hit that like button. If you haven't done that, make sure to hit that like button. It just helps the YouTube algorithm pick up this live show, get in front of more NC State fans as well too. Make sure to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And lastly, go check out our amazing Patreon. Only $5 a month. Get 3 members-only videos a week, plus our members-only rumor chat. Amazing value that you do not want to miss out on. So make sure to go check that out in the description below. Go sign up here today. But with that being said, y'all, we will talk to you all soon. And as always, go Pack.